Hi, everyone. It's Dr. Azi here. Welcome to the More Than a Pretty Face podcast. Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the More Than a Pretty Face podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Azadeh Shirazi. A lot of my patients call me Dr. Azi. And this is my co-host, Nurse Lacie. Hi, Lacie.
Hi, how are you?
Good. How are you?
Good.
So what's new?
Not
What are we getting into today?
I'm super excited for today's episode. We are literally covering it all. I have such amazing Ask Dr. Azi questions for this segment, from dissolving filler to a woman who has 20-year-old filler in her face.
What?
All the way to the butterfly lips. Have you heard of butterfly lips?
You know, speaking of butterflies, I have an insect story for you.
Oh my gosh, I can't wait.
Should we start our beauty and blemish?
Yes.
So guys, beauty and blemish is when we talk about what's been amazing and awesome in our life, what's been beautiful, and what's been not so pretty or blemish, which sometimes I wish I had a real life concealer to conceal these life blemishes. So do you want to go first? Do you have a beauty?
Yes. We were super excited. My daughter is obsessed with Super Mario Brothers, and I have no idea how she became so obsessed, but we decided we were going to take her to the movie when it came
princesses?
out. No. Surprisingly not, no. So we were super excited to take her to the movie when it launched, and we get in these comfortable, like, reclining chairs. The movie starts. And I look over and her and my husband fell asleep.
What? What? And they fell asleep? That is something. That is something I would do. I feel like I always fall asleep at movies. I don't know what it is. It's those recliner chairs.
Yeah, it really is. So I watched the movie by myself. It was great. I would say my blemish is not grabbing my 4 shots of espresso before coming in today.
Girl, how did you start your day without that? I can't even.
The excitement of being on our podcast together. How about you?
My beauty is we're getting the Aviclear laser in 2 weeks.
Yes.
I am literally just cannot wait. I just think about it. I'm like, okay, 1 more week, 2 more weeks. I cannot wait. It's going to be so cool.
I love
it. It's like my toys, right? That's the one thing I get so excited about.
Yes.
And my blemish is I freaked people out again on TikTok.
Oh my gosh.
I think the universe knows that I have this controversy phobia. Like, I'm always so afraid to be in the midst of a controversy.
What did you do?
Well, I was just being honest. So, okay, you know how
story
April...
of your life.
So, I know. It's like, you can't be too honest, right? Well, you know how April is Rosacea Awareness Month. So, yes. I made Derm Tips You Wish You Knew Sooner, or I Wish I Knew Sooner, on rosacea.
Yeah.
And I told people that we have skin mites in our pores. It's true.
I know it's true.
I learned this my first year of dermatology residency. So 1/3 of our dermatology training is looking at skin samples under the microscope. So whatever we see in the office, in the clinic, we take a sample of it, we look at it under the microscope. And the first time I learned this, we were looking and my dermatopathologist teacher was like, "Oh, did you see the skin mite?" I'm like, "Whoa, what?" They're like, "Yeah, that's a skin mite." I'm like, "What? Skin has mites?" He says, "It's called Demodex. We all have it, but people with rosacea have it in really high numbers." Yes. And that's why they have this chronic inflammation. They get the bumps. They get the thickening of the skin. They have an abnormal high amounts. But you and I, we both have them, not very much of them. So, oh my God, the comments were
I'm sure you terrified the world, the TikTok
they're like,
world.
"I could have gone through life not knowing this fact. Thanks for ruining my day." I'm like, "I'm sorry. I was just being,
No one wanted to know that.
No, that was one thing that they could do without.
Oh my goodness. I love that. Okay, Dr. Azi, before we jump into our questions,
yes,
I want to do something we've never done before.
What?
You cool with that?
You have surprises? You know how I feel about surprises.
I do, but I think you're going to love this one. I think you are.
All right. Let's see.
So, with my random nights of insomnia, I like to scroll through and read our reviews. And we have amazing reviews on both our skincare products and the podcast. So I thought it'd be really cool to shout people out.
Yes, let's do it. Because it is your listenership and your subscriptionship that really keeps the podcast going. So if you really find value in listening to this podcast, please show us some love, write us a review. So what are people saying?
Okay. So I pulled the most recent one from LJ Taylor 2023. And they wrote, I found Dr. Azi on TikTok and I like how honest she is. In the podcast, no exception. She's very honest with what she likes and doesn't. She also points out the misinformation that spreads like wildfire on the internet, and it makes me happy to see she is honest and answers questions that people have to keep their skin healthy and beautiful. It's so nice to see her having other dermatologists on her podcast, so there are different opinions that are expressed and they are addressed and agree with one another in such a healthy way.
I love that. Sometimes I'm a little too honest.
Never. What?
Yes. And then people get offended. But anyways.
Well, if you guys want us to shout you out, make sure you guys leave us a review on the podcast, on Apple or on Spotify. We love hearing from you guys and we look forward to seeing more reviews.
And we have a special limited time offer for our podcast listeners. This offer is not being made public until May 1st. So podcast listeners, you have first access to this limited time offer, which is only valid when supplies last. For now, until May 16th, with the purchase of age-defying AM/PM Duo, you'll receive a free AziMD bag plus a free mini jade roller. The AM/PM Duo is one of my favorite product combos. It's designed to combat the signs of aging for a firmer, smoother, more luminous complexion. It includes the Glow Serum, which improves the appearance of wrinkles, brightens the complexion, and supports the microbiome during the day, and the Lift and Renew, which improves the appearance of lines, pores, uneven skin tone, discoloration to brighten your complexion at night. When checking out, the free AziMD bag plus a free mini jade roller will automatically be added to your cart when the age-defying AM/PM Duo is selected. Again, that's AziMDSkincare.com for all your skincare. Send us your selfies of using these products. We love to see you glow.
Okay, now let's get started and ask Dr. Azi, our segment where our listeners get to send us questions where we ask the expert. And you can send us your questions at More Than a Pretty Face Podcast or Skin by Dr. Azi on Instagram. And we love hearing from you.
And I love answering your questions.
So let's get started. Our first question is from Ellie. She says, Hi, Dr. Shirazi. I love the podcast. Thank you for sharing all your knowledge. I've seen online that influencers are taping their lips after getting injections to keep their lips in a more butterfly shape. I remember you used to do the keyhole pout with a ribbon. Is this the same thing? Is this a trend? Is this safe? Give us the scoop.
Oh, she remembers the keyhole pout. This is how Lacie and I got started, guys. The keyhole pout. I did this on Lacie and it went viral.
Yes.
It can be similar. Oh, but I am not a fan of this butterfly lips, guys. So if you've seen the images online, it's when they use, it looks like steri strips.
It does.
Like surgical tape.
Yes.
And they try to tape the lip in a position to make it more everted. So you see more of the Cupid's bow. Mm-hmm. There's also a butterfly lip technique where a small amount of skin is actually cut out above the lip, kind of close to the nostril, again, to pull that lip up and evert it. This is my problem. What they're doing is they are also injecting hyaluronidase, which is the solution that dissolves hyaluronic acid filler, at the same time as they're putting in the filler. Now, this just doesn't make sense to me.
What?
Like, why would you add filler and then a dissolvent to dissolve the filler in the same session. And it's really naive to think that surgical tape can stop the filler from moving and that stop the dissolvent from not traveling. I mean, what are they going to do? Like stay silent for a week, not move their mouth? That's the problem with, the mouth area. You have to eat, you have to drink, you have to talk. Like if you move your lips, surgical tape is not going to prevent the two from mixing. And then that filler dissolvent that they're injecting, unfortunately, is going to cause a lot of inflammation, swelling. So you're going to get distortion. And I don't know if you've seen pictures of these lips.
I have.
But to me, they are not attractive. They are not aesthetic. They look like something out of not anything that seems natural, okay?
Don't piss anyone else off.
I'm sorry. But come on, like this is harmful for your tissues. You are causing this robust inflammation. And at the end of the day, it's not going to work. In a month, the lips are going to be back to where they were because you really need to first dissolve the filler that's migrated. I think this was the point for them to dissolve what's migrated out of the lips. And then put in new filler, but then keep the old filler from migrating out. It just doesn't make sense. I think in the long term can be harmful. Trends in general are just something you don't want to jump on. When it comes to your face, your skin, at the end of the day, the skin is an organ. It is a living thing. It's not like you're changing your hair color or you're getting a new haircut. This is like a real life organ you're messing with. And trust me, I see these complications in my office every single day. And I'm trying to do everything I can to keep you guys safe, to bring you all this misinformation so that you don't get into trouble. We're just trying to keep you out of trouble. That's all.
Stay out of trouble. I love it. Okay, so speaking of that, our next question is from Sammy. And Sammy is asking something we've all been talking a ton about. Dissolving filler. Okay. She said, "Hi, Dr. Azi and Lacie. Can you talk about dissolving filler? I've seen a ton of people talking about this online. Jeffree Star just had his filler dissolved and is talking about it. And I've seen a ton of people's lips blow up after dissolving because they're allergic. So first of all, how do we know if we are allergic or not? And should we stop getting our lips dissolved? Or are thin lips in again?"
Well, thin lips might be in again. I think thin lips are beautiful, and not everybody has to have these big, full lips. It doesn't fit everybody's face. Well, the rate of allergy to hyaluronidase, which is what is used to dissolve filler, is less than 1%.
Okay.
So it would be very, very unlikely for you to be allergic to the substance. Ophthalmologists use it all the time in the eye, and it's just an enzyme that goes around and just degrades the hyaluronic acid. Now, I always tell people, look, if you are going to start getting lip filler and you start this early on, when you're younger and you're going in, this is your third, your fourth session, by the time that you're in your late 30s to 40s, you will probably have migration. And there's two reasons for this. One is back in the day, we used to think filler dissolved after 6 months, after a year. That is not true. And the reason we used to think this is because the filler companies, their studies would end at 1 year, 2 year, these clinical trials. So we had no data, what happens to the filler after 2 years. Now that we've been doing fillers for 20 years, we have a lot more data and we know that filler doesn't always dissolve. And when you're putting filler in an area like the mouth, like the lips, where you're talking, you're chewing, you're making all these movements with the muscle, eventually, especially as your collagen starts to get less and less as you get older, the tissue becomes more lax. It's not as firm to hold that filler in the lip, and it starts to move out. So filler migration is real. And if you are going in for injections, periodically over a number of years, particularly in the lips, it is something that you will probably have to do. It's not the end of the world. And you can probably see filler migration on a lot of your friends. And that's when the border between the lip mucosa, the pink area of your lip, and the skin starts to become obscure. You start to see puffiness around the skin that surrounds the pink portion of the lips. It can also actually end up making your lips look thinner because it sort of hangs over the pink part of the lip, and then it causes the lip to sort of start going inward. Yep. So a lot of people, when they have the filler dissolve, they're like, oh my gosh, I can actually see more of my lip. It actually allows the lip to evert out because there's not filler overhanging it and causing it to curl in. So it's not harmful. You are going to have some inflammation. My suggestion is to really go slow. So low amounts over a period of time. It's not a one and done. I know everything now is I just want it now delivered, and I wanted it like 3 hours ago. So you're going to have to do a session, let it dissolve, then come back and refill the lips. But know that still it could potentially migrate out. That's why having a really good injector is important, because they'll be able to help maneuver that series of sessions so that it doesn't dissolve your natural hyaluronic acid, because you don't want to just throw a bunch of hyaluronidase in there, because it will also take out your natural HA. So be very, very cautious.
So don't dissolve and refill in the same treatment.
No, that makes no sense. No sense. Like, you can't just fill a cup with water and then dump it all out and then expect the cup to be full. Like, come on, people.
Oh my goodness. Okay. This leads us right into question number 3. We have Dr. Azi, a woman who went in for an MRI. She had been getting 20 years worth of filler injections, and she goes in for a facial MRI, and they find 35 cc's of filler in this woman's face.
Yeah, I saw that article. That was really interesting. That's what they estimated. Yeah, 35 syringes.
Which is, 35 syringes in her face.
Yeah, well,
over 20 years.
Like I said, we used to think that these fillers dissolved, but unfortunately they do not. And is that a lot of filler over 35 years? I think she looks great.
Yeah, she does.
Look at her photos.
She looks great.
And it's honestly not a lot of filler over that amount of time, but it is important to know that not all fillers dissolve like we used to think. Now, what can happen with fillers is sometimes in some people, as the filler starts to break down, the hyaluronic acid, which typically the injectable form, they are considered high molecular weight hyaluronic acid. These are big hyaluronic acid sugar complexes. And they are anti-inflammatory, meaning they just sort of sit there in the skin. They are inert. But low molecular weight hyaluronic acid is pro-inflammatory, which means it actually triggers inflammation. And that is when it becomes a problem, when you have so much filler in a short period of time and they're all breaking down into these shorter, smaller hyaluronic acid molecules, which in turn start the whole inflammation part. And people say, and this happens more with some fillers than others, because we say filler, but there's all these different kinds on the market, right? There's ones that break down easily, ones that don't break down easily. And so when it starts this pro-inflammatory process, you're dealing with low-grade inflammation over many years. What can happen with that? Scarring, fibrosis. You are going to be replacing your natural collagen and your natural structure with scar collagen. And I honestly can feel this in people who have gotten so much filler, probably, 100 mLs of filler over time, or they've gotten the wrong filler where it's pro-inflammatory. And when I inject them, it feels like I'm injecting a piece of rock. It is so hard. And a lot of plastic surgeons will tell you this too, that when they go in to do facelifts, they can't do a facelift. The tissue is so hard, so immobile. And so you don't want to replace your natural collagen with the scar collagen. I also notice it in people that I do resurfacing with. If they've had a lot of filler, I will not resurface them because they don't have as great of a regenerative power to produce that natural collagen because they've destroyed their native skin. So be very cautious, choose your injector wisely, be aware of how many of these fillers you're doing, maybe mix it up with some lasers and some other modalities.
Yeah.
Those are really great questions.
Yes.
I love this episode because it was really shedding light on some important topics that, I think cosmetic dermatologists and plastic surgeons should be honest about.
Yeah, and a lot of things that people don't normally think about too.
Absolutely. Well, thanks guys for tuning in. Don't forget, sharing is caring. Share this with a friend who might also be interested in this topic, and send us a DM on Instagram at Skin by Dr. Azi or More Than a Pretty Face Podcast. If you are not on Instagram, email us at morethanaprettyfacepodcast@gmail.com. Until next time.
Thanks, guys.
Bye, guys.